My name's Nicholas Johnson and I graduated last year from the Royal College in the painting school. And this is the work that I've made for the Catlin Prize. It's got a number of titles because there's a number of works in it, but these kind of complicated run-on titles are, I suppose, a device that I use to kind of dredge up themes that are latent within the layers of the work. So the title is Plant of Many Faces, Cosmic Ghetto Music. The bush said nothing and didn't let us look very far either. So I suppose cosmic ghetto music it's a piece of graffiti that I saw, but it begins to get at this idea of hybridity and the merging of different genres to create kind of something new, which is a theme I think that runs throughout the work. Certainly with these kind of faces, these anthropomorphized faces within the kind of foliage, that hybrid plant and kind of human form is something that's very archaic, and you see it cropping up in different cultures that wouldn't, ancient cultures that wouldn't have had any contact with each other. But then it's kind of updated with this idea of kind of whatever cosmic music is, whether it's synthesizer music or something, and then, but then that's, then that's hybridized by other forms of music, and we continue to kind of appropriate things from cultures that we don't necessarily understand, and I mean that happens in music at a pace that outstrips contemporary art, and contemporary art I feel like is always often kind of lagging to kind of keep up with a lot of the developments in popular culture, and but yeah, then I suppose with my work, there's a slightly intentional kind of retrograde kind of motion, because I like to say I paint flowers, which sounds really naive, but it's, I suppose, a way of thinking about how one can think about tradition in painting and the history of painting, and particularly kind of obsolete genres like flower painting, something kind of anachronistic like that, and what that can contribute to a discussion around contemporary art by thinking about stuff that's happening on the fringes that might be kind of naive or untrendy, and then bringing that into a different kind of context, and then how does that change the discussion? So yeah, I suppose the idea of decay and reclamation, again, there's a sense of kind of hybridity in that, but certainly adopting, at least nominally, a kind of archaic, anachronistic kind of painting genre, and then reclaiming it and repurposing it and recontextualizing it. So I suppose this kind of mushroom form is something that recurs in the work, and it's a botanical symbol of reclamation and regrowth through kind of decay. So it's a nice, tidy kind of symbol.
And how is the painting actually done? It's on wood?
Yeah, it's
panels?
mixed. It's very mixed media. The cladding kind of panels behind it are done on plywood and painted. Mostly they're painted on the floor, and the paint is allowed to kind of pool up, and details kind of get submerged within that, and then things then kind of reveal depending on the transparency of the layers, and just that constant that build up of layers really is what generates the kind of density of the images. And but yeah, there's fabric kind of in them at initial stages, and string and sweepings from the studio floor, so nails and staples find their way in. But all these things kind of function as, particularly the fabric, the folds in the fabric function as these kind of, to create this kind of optical effects where the light falls differently on things.
There is certainly a sense of depth and like jungle-likeness to quite a lot of the panels, but then also the graffiti elements making it kind of anachronistic
Yeah, the jungle thing it's mixed up with a lot of like ideas about colonialism and imperialism and ideas about the exotic, and certainly I'm sure something like Gauguin would come to mind for a lot of people, and but also maybe somebody like Rousseau, who was a naive painter and was painting from his drawing room and painting from photographs of places that he had never been, these completely fantastical landscapes. But that misrepresentation of secondhand knowledge is something that I'm really interested in, because again, this idea of hybridity crops up where things are merged with different cultures and things are misappropriated and used to kind of different ends. And so yeah, I suppose that's where a lot of the kind of jungle motif comes from, is remembering places that I've never been through other people's accounts of them, which is something that's happened, you know, in historically in so many different ways, you know. Accounts from sailors of dolphins that then get turned into these mutant life forms on Westminster lampposts. One of the titles is "The Bush Said Nothing, and It Didn't Let Us Look Very Far Either," which is an intentional misquote of Conrad in The Heart of Darkness. And it's a very subtle kind of misquote, but that kind of misquoting achieves in a way what he may have achieved with Heart of Darkness, which it kind of is inherently quite a racist book, and he's using this device of this kind of sinister jungle to underpin his narrative, you know, of essentially a kind of a horror story. And so yeah, there's just layers upon layers of like misappropriation and misunderstanding of, you know, exotic cultures and things that weren't kind of didn't belong to one to begin with, but we do this in so many ways, don't we? I mean, and not just in kind of literature and artwork, but we're always kind of borrowing from, you know, other places, and kind of merging things together. It happens in contemporary society in so many different ways.